Welcome to the American Business Podcast. This is Kevin Devecioglu, your host. I'm welcoming you, episode 86. The American Business Podcast is the voice of American business. Let's get our conversation started today. We have a lot to cover. We have Brian Beckham with us, and we're gonna talk about different subjects in business and legal system. Let's welcome our guest and let's get the conversation started. Hello, Brian. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Kevin, how are you doing? I hope those police aren't coming for me.
Well, yes, this is New York City, right? So
it's funny you'd say that because I'm in Houston and we have sirens like you hear them so often that they just they drift into the background. And I'll be talking to friends of mine from different cities, and they'll say, "Do you know that every time I talk to you, I hear police sirens in the background?" And I don't even notice it anymore because I've been here for so long.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned Houston. So I'm based in New York City, but last week I had a chance to go to Houston, and that's always, I always enjoy being in Houston. So completely different environment and different experience, and it's a great city
sure.
for both for business and also socially as well. So it's a place that I enjoy visiting and doing business in.
Great city. It's a great city for business. You're right about that. I was in Manhattan about 4 or 5 months ago, and Manhattan, obviously, great city for business. Great city for food too. Like Houston and Manhattan, I think are the two best cities in the country as far as the food scene is concerned. So, if you like to eat and you like to make money, Houston and New York are pretty good places to be.
Correct, and it's also interesting. I also find these two cities to be very complementary.
Yeah.
So when you think about Houston, it's a vibrant economy, a vibrant society, also focus on energy, manufacturing. And New York City, when you look at it, it's also vibrant. It's also large. Focus on finance, marketing, PR. There is, of course, manufacturing too, but complementary industries to Houston. So I always love to bring them together in my mind and in business anytime I have a chance.
Two big ports too, like two of the biggest ports in the entire world. Houston through the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America, and then New York. And then we've got, of course, LA and San Francisco on the other coast. So and the thing that I love about Houston, so I've been in Houston for almost 25 years now. One of the things I love about Houston is it's so diverse. Like we have so many different communities from so many different parts of the world that it's super cool because you have all this culture that you don't find in other places. In fact, I think I read somewhere not long ago that Houston has the most diverse population in the country, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, two great cities, two awesome cities.
And that's what makes you appreciate where you are, right? So that's great. And I'm make sure to give you a buzz next time I'm in Houston. So we
please
can get together, hopefully. Yeah, that sounds great. Well, thank you again for being with us in your busy schedule. I've been looking forward to this conversation, and if that's okay, we can get started. Would you please introduce yourself and your organization briefly to our audience and to our listeners?
Yeah, so I'm Brian Beckham. I'm a lawyer in Houston, Texas, although I have cases in all 50 states and outside the United States. So I have a national, international legal practice. I also host a leadership show called Lessons from Leaders with Brian Beckham which is primarily military leaders, sports stars, business leaders, and it just focuses on what I call positive leadership. So leaders that don't threaten people, they don't. I mean, there's also different sorts of leadership. There's, the kind of leaders that intimidate people and threaten people and scare people. I mean, they can get things done, but it's not a long-term prospect. So I focus more on the positive parts of leadership, leaders who serve other people, things like that. Those are my two big business callings. But I'm also a husband and the father to 3 children. So that's a pretty big part of my life too.
I can imagine. This is great. Well, would you please tell us about your day-to-day activities? In your day, what are the exciting and challenging parts of your work on daily basis?
Yeah, sure. So what I do on a daily basis is I solve problems, and oftentimes I solve legal problems for people. I've been doing this for about 25 years. I'm board certified in trial law, which is only 2% of the lawyers in the country are board certified in anything. So it's extremely rare. And I help people, basically. The best way to put it is people call me with very, very serious legal issues. So they've lost a loved one because some corporation was reckless. They've lost a business because somebody defamed them. They were out working. I do a lot of maritime cases. In fact, my most famous case involved a ship called the Maersk, Alabama, which was kidnapped by Somali pirates. And then the Navy SEALs came in and rescued him, and they made a movie about it starring Tom Hanks. I represented the crew of that ship. So basically anybody that's been killed, severely injured, any business that's been put out of business, the equivalent of being killed, or severely injured, i.e. the finances have been severely impacted, they call me, and I give them the best legal guidance that I can, and they pay me a lot of money to do that. So that's kind of what I do on a daily basis. On a weekly basis, I also run a leadership podcast. I'm fascinated with leadership. I've been fascinated with leadership for 35 years. I was in something called the Corps of Cadets at Texas A&M, which is like the military academies, but better. And let me tell you what I mean by that. 24 hours. So you're in college for 4 years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you are on. It's not like an ROTC program somewhere else where you do it once a week and go to class and that's it. Full time, just like the service academies. The reason I say it's better than the service academies, though, and it is better than the service academies in this respect, is when you're at the service academies, everybody's getting in the service, and there are no other students really other than your classmates. At Texas A&M, you're literally in a 3,000 member Corps of Cadets. You're getting all of this discipline. You're getting all this military training. You're making all these friends. You're learning all these leadership lessons. And there are 60,000 students around you at the same time. So you're not going, when you're at the Army Navy game, everybody there in the stands is Army Navy contract cadet. Whereas at Texas A&M, you've got all the same kind of contract cadets, but then you've got all these other civilian students too. So that's a big part of my life, primarily because my 2 sons are in it right now. So I've been following. I'm super proud of them, and I'm following that a lot. But that's the kind of the little longer version of what I do on a daily basis.
Yeah, this is really exciting. There are many questions I love to ask you and get your insights. And one of the things that I love to learn is your career path. How did you get started? How your career path has unfolded over the years?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a little unusual. So I had, when I was in high school, the only thing I cared about was playing basketball. I was completely obsessed with basketball. My mother died when I was young. My father was in the Air Force. He raised my brother and I as a single father. We weren't poor, but we didn't have a lot of money. I mean, my first car cost $1,000 and didn't have air conditioning or seat belts or anything like that. So I really didn't have, and of course there was no cell phones back then. This is in the late 80s, early 90s. And so I was just obsessed with basketball. That's really all I cared about. But all of a sudden, in the late 80s, they came out with these things called desktop computers. And I was fascinated with these things. I mean, the fact that I could go in there, get into my teacher's computer, and change everybody's grade to an A was amazing. And that actually happened. And then the teacher kicked, all the computers were like networked with these wires, and he kicked me off and basically pulled the plug. But so I go to Texas A&M as an 18-year-old to play basketball. And so I played Division I basketball there. I had no idea what I wanted to study, but I like computers. So I started taking these computer science classes. And this is before the internet. This is before email. This is before text and smartphones and social media and all that other jazz. In fact, I had an email address in the early 90s. The problem was there was nobody else that had one, so I couldn't email anybody. So I'm in computers in the early 90s before the dot-com bubble. And it was just fascinating to me. The problem is I didn't realize how much math was involved. I didn't know I was going to have to take 4 different calculuses, linear algebra, differential equations, all of these complex math classes. And somehow I managed to get through those classes. At the same time, I was getting a degree in philosophy. And people are like, computer science and philosophy, those have nothing in common. They actually do. A lot of people don't realize the original computer scientists, a lot of them were philosophers. In fact, philosophy, natural philosophy, is what they used to call science. Chemistry, biology, physics, those are all offshoots of natural philosophy. And so computer science and philosophy actually are fairly tightly connected. How did I go to law school? How did I become a lawyer with those 2 degrees? So long story short, I have no lawyers in my family anywhere, 10 generations back on either side. So I didn't really have any lawyer role models, but I got a chance when I was in college to hold some leadership positions, and I got a chance to help some people, and I really liked it a lot. And I also like to read and I like to write. So I said, what the heck, I'll go to law school. I don't know what else I want to do right now. I took the LSAT. I made the 99th percentile. So I had a lot of choices. I ended up going to the University of Texas Law School, which at the time was one of the best law schools in the country and definitely the best in the state. And I thought I was going to do whatever. I mean, I didn't know what to do. You're going to go work for a big law firm representing insurance companies and Fortune 500 companies. And that's what I did because I didn't know any better. And about 2 years into that, I realized I didn't want to represent big companies and insurance companies. I wanted to represent people and families and small businesses. So I quit, started my own firm, and 22 years later, here we are. So that's kind of how it's an odd path. Although my mom died when I was 10, and she died as a result of some very, very serious medical negligence on behalf of a military Air Force doctor. And my dad actually hired a lawyer. This is in the late 70s, early 80s, and sued the government and won. And so I think subconsciously, I've always wanted to kind of do the kind of things that lawyer did for my family, for other people's other families. And plus I like to read, write, and talk. And that others do really is read, write, and talk. So, and then the final thing I'll say, and this is my about it. I tell people I spent 4 years in a computer lab with a bunch of nerds, and I didn't want to spend the rest of my life with a bunch of nerds. And so now what do I do 20 years later? I sit behind a computer and talk to a bunch of nerds.
Well, yes. Well, it's quite a journey. Well, thank you for sharing these. In our podcast, this is the second time that we have a trial lawyer, and I always enjoy the conversation. The first one was one of my friends from New York City area, Will Newman.
Nice.
We had two episodes with him, and it was actually a great conversation. We also learned a lot, and obviously with you in this conversation, we are also learning too. So I truly appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's talk about something really popular as well. Let's talk about AI, the impact of AI. What do you think about AI? How do you see the impact of AI in business based on your professional observation and experience so far?
Yeah. So I think any business where the objective of the business is to process information, which is most professional service type of jobs, a lot of business jobs. Anything where the primary function is to process information is going to be dramatically affected by AI. There is no question in my mind about that. In fact, I've been using AI in my law practice for almost 3 years now. It's transformed my law practice in many ways. People that aren't using AI right now in law or professional services are way behind the curve. And if you're not learning how to use this tool now, you're going to fall behind. I mean, you're going to be the equivalent of somebody today sending a fax instead of an email or a text. So it's going to have a dramatic impact. I think there's all different sorts of ways this can go. I wanted to understand so when we talk about AI, that's a very broad category. AI, like if you look over at your thermostat, that's AI. The thermostat knows when it's a certain temperature and adjusts accordingly. But that's a very narrow AI. Chess computers are AIs. But again, that's a very narrow AI. What I think we're talking about when we talk about it in respect to the business community is LLMs and things like that. So what are LLM? A lot of people know what that is, but that's a large language model. It's a way to have a conversation with a machine, basically, where you don't really know that it's a machine on the other side. So let's talk about, first of all, I think we got to divide and conquer. So when we're talking about AI, big, broad category, the LLMs are really, I think, at least now, and there'll be other AIs that come out, those are the big game changers. There's a famous test in computer science and math called the Turing test. A lot of your listeners will know what I'm talking about. Alan Turing, British mathematician and computer scientist, came up with this test. It basically says, if you're interacting with something and you don't know what's on the other side and you can't tell whether it's human or not, we've reached artificial intelligence. Now, that's a really, really kind of high level. The Turing test is a lot more, from a mathematical basis, is a lot more complicated than that. But that's a basic idea. We've already blown through kind of that high level version of the Turing test. Like, people don't know right now when they're interacting with AI or not. I'll bet you've had this experience where you'll be watching a YouTube video and about a minute in, you'll go, wait a second, that's AI. Or you'll read something online and you'll go, that's definitely written by AI. So right now there's little indicia. It's not perfect, but it's going to be perfect very, very quickly. And we're not going to know the difference. And that brings in all sorts of philosophical consequences. So the LLMs, I think, are what are the big game changer when it comes to business and when it comes to American business. And I don't know exactly where we're going. Like, I'm not a prophet. There's a great physicist named David Deutsch who basically calls prediction prophecy. And I don't want to hold myself out as you see all these people that just get out there and just spew these predictions, and they're all, most of the time, they're wrong. So I don't want to get into that game. What I do know, so I don't know the particulars of how things are going to change, but I know they're going to change. Like, I know that for a fact. I'm very confident. I would place a lot of money on the fact that AIs will have a massive impact in any professional service business.
How about judicial system? Will AI replace lawyers and judges and judicial system in the future?
Some, yeah. So in some respects, yes, and in some respects, no. The issue we've got right now in the legal system is, first of all, the AIs just aren't good enough. They hallucinate. They make things up. Humans are better right now. But humans are only better at the margins. So the AI is better at 95% of what we do already. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I'll give you a concrete example. In a legal case, you're allowed to send questions to the other side. It's called discovery. They have to answer them in writing and send them back to you. It used to take a very, very long time to craft these questions. I can now craft a set of discovery questions in 10 seconds. Okay. The AIs do that way better. And for the rest of humanity, they'll do it better. That's one thing, by the way, that people don't realize is once an AI beats you in chess or Go or anything else, it'll beat humans for the rest of it. There's never going to be a time where humans are going to get better at chess and computers, ever, for the rest of history. And it's the same way in the legal field. So I will never, ever be able to draft these discovery questions as fast as an AI. And I shouldn't do it. It's a waste of time for my clients and I to spend 2 days doing something I can do in 10 seconds. But humans are better because we still have to read the product, the end product. Like there still has to be a human mind on that end product to say, this is accurate, this is good. Now, that may change in the future a little bit. I don't know. But at least right now, the humans have a little bit of an advantage on the AI. Here's what I've been thinking about lately. What is it? Right now, what's my competitive advantage? I've been practicing for 25 years. I'm really good at what I do, I think. And my competitive advantage is all this experience and judgment and wisdom that I have. And so I know what questions to ask the AI, whereas other inexperienced or less good lawyers don't even know what questions to ask. But I know the questions to ask, and I'm sure it's like that for a lot of your listeners in their business. If they're really good, because they know the right questions, they know that better than everybody else. But what happens when the C student or the C lawyer or the C level accountant says, well, I may not know the questions, but I'm just going to ask the AI what questions I should ask. So what would an A-level lawyer ask you, AI? Whoa, now what's our competitive advantage? I don't know. That's a totally different story. So again, it's impossible to predict specifically what's going to happen with AI in the legal system because that's just guesswork. That's prophecy. But there is no question that it's going to have a massive transformational effect on what we do.
Yes, this is a fascinating subject. Fascinating, and we can talk about this for hours. I have no doubt about it, but I truly appreciate your insights.
Yeah.
Well, since we talk about legal system and AI a little bit, how about regulating AI? What is your take on how to regulate AI? I have another podcast called Two Guys, All Things Tech. And I have a co-host, Antonio Lucidi, that we have these debate all the time, whether to regulate AI or to what level to regulate to make sure it doesn't curb innovation, but at the same time, it's going to be safe. What is your take on this?
So my first take is that the politicians that make these laws, most of them don't know jack, what about AI and what it means and what it is and what the issues are. That comment is totally uncontroversial. Like I think most of your listeners are going to agree with me that most of the politicians just simply aren't qualified to opine, especially to write laws on these subjects. But here's what will surprise you, I think. Neither is Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or any of these tech titans. We have this kind of weird notion in our society that because you're a good businessman, which is, by the way, that's what Elon Musk is not a great engineer. He's not a great mathematician. He's not a great physicist. He's not a great scientist. He's none of those things. He's a great businessman. He's a visionary businessman who happens to have made a lot of money by and large because he was born and moved to the right place at the right time. There's a lot of luck involved. Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook to get chicks in college. Okay. Bill Gates basically stole Microsoft Windows from the government and from IBM. So none of these guys are like world-class engineers. The world-class engineers are actually working on the engineering problems. The world-class mathematicians are actually working on the math problems. But we have this notion that because these tech titans have all this money and have been successful, that somehow they have some sort of knowledge about the ethics of AI. And that is just not true at all. In fact, many of them have incentives that are the complete opposite of what would be good for most of society. And so what we need is kind of philosopher, techno kind of people. And I know that's very selfish of me because I have philosophy and technical degrees and a legal degree. But I'm just telling you, like, Elon Musk has nothing to offer in terms of the regular. In fact, whatever he says when it comes to regulating tech, I would ignore. I would run away because he's got built-in biases for, and it's not just him. I'm not just picking on him. It's all of them. So what we really need, I think, is philosophers to ask the right questions of our lawmakers. If we truly want to regulate AI, I mean, one of the first questions that everybody asks when it comes to AI regulation is, okay, let's say we regulate AI in America. China's not going to have the same regulation. Russia's not going to have the same regulation. North Korea, Israel, Eastern European. I mean, everybody's going to have a different regulatory scheme. And if China allows its AIs to do things we don't, and we feel like we're going to be at a competitive disadvantage, then those regulations are just going to be ignored. So it's a really, really tough topic. The other thing that everybody knows is the law moves slowly and tech moves fast. And so it's super hard for the law to catch up to the ethics of technology. And you see this right now in social media. I mean, isn't it crazy that we've allowed 4 or 5 people basically to dictate what we consume, what billions of people consume every day? Like, who decided it was a good idea for Mark Zuckerberg to decide what everybody sees every day? And again, I'm not criticizing him individually. I'm just saying it is an utterly ridiculous ethical situation that we find ourselves in. And everybody, I think, agrees that social media, for all the good it's done, also has a lot of bad involved in it. But that bad actually helps make money. Like, when your algorithm increases people's emotions, positive or negative, they're going to click, they're going to read more and stuff like that. And so what do these companies do? They juice up the algorithm more. So it's a really, really hard question, because right now we've got a bunch of tech titans that don't know anything at all about philosophy or ethics, who are completely conflicted. We have a bunch of lawmakers that have no background in the technology, and we don't have anybody in between that has some ability to converse in both, or we have very few people that have the ability to converse in both. And so I really don't know. My tendency, Kevin, is to think that regulation is not going to work. As much as I would like it to work a little bit around the margins, there's just too many competing interests, and I just don't see it working. Neil deGrasse Tyson has a great idea. He said, well, if the AIs get out of hand, you can just unplug it. Like that's his notion of what an AI is. And that's a kind of a juvenile notion, because that AI is going to know what you're going to do, and it's going to go offload itself into 10,000 other computers, and you can't plug, it's just that just doesn't work that way. So
True.
yeah.
True. Well, I'd like to shift our conversation towards role models and mentors. Have you had any role models? Have you had any mentors in your career path who help you shape your career?
Yeah. So I've got 3 mentors in my life that come to mind. The first one is my father. He kind of is my outside of business, kind of my male role model, my ethical role model. My high school basketball coach, who basically convinced me when I was young that I could do anything I wanted to if I worked hard enough. And then professionally, there's a gentleman named Ben Glass in Virginia. When I started my law firm, I knew nothing about marketing. I knew nothing about getting clients. I knew nothing about, running any of my business. I just was like, I'm just going to learn this. And I found Ben, and Ben taught me a lot of things about marketing and business, most of which, by the way, was more philosophical and theoretical. And I'll give you a good example of this. What most people do when they get into the work field is they get their job, and then they design their life around their job. Okay. So I'm working 9 to 5, Monday through Thursday, have a half day Friday. I'll get my family and my other stuff in after work and on the weekends. And Ben told me that's the opposite of what you should do. You should design your life first, design what you want your life to look like, and then design your business around your life. And that by itself, that one concept completely changed my life 20 years ago. Here's another thing Ben taught me. And I do this all the time. He's like, who made that rule? Like there's all this conventional wisdom and all these rules out there that lawyers or other business people are or aren't supposed to do certain things, are or aren't supposed to be in certain places, you know. And Ben just constantly is asking, says who? Right? Like who made that rule? And oftentimes when you ask that question, you'll find out that there's like no real justification for it. Now it's just a rule that's been around for a long time and nobody ever questions it. So, but anyway, those are by far the three biggest role models in my life.
If there is one key career lesson that you learned the hard way, what would it be that you can share with us?
There's probably two. So
We'll take two.
It's two. It's because they're complementary. So
okay.
If you want to be good at what you do, you got to work very hard at it. That's so obvious. It's so simple, but it is what it is. And I tell you, I've been doing this for a long time now, and I just don't see very many young people that want to work that hard. And that's okay. Like they have other priorities. They don't want to be really, really good trial lawyers, or they don't want to be really, really good CEOs. They want to be good enough to make a good living and then go do other things. And I'm not criticizing that at all. What I'm saying is, if you want to be a superstar, you better be willing to work really, really hard. And when I say really, really hard, most people have no idea what that means. I mean, I'm talking about really, really, really hard. Like you're constantly, like you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about, how can I get better at this? When you go to bed at night, you're like, I want to get better at, I want to be better at this. When I was a young lawyer, I used to go down to the basement of the building where there was all these archives, and I would just study all these lawyers. You know who else was down there? My law partner, and that's it. There was nobody else down there ever. You know why? Because most of the people just didn't want to be. They were either lazy or they didn't want to be that good. So that's probably the number one. And by the way, if you think you're working hard, you're not. Like there's always an extra gear. The flip side of that is it's taken me a long time to learn patience. And I'm one of those real A personalities where I want things done now. Like, let's get it done. Why are we talking about it? Let's get it done. Let's move. Let's not sit around. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. And I've really had to remind myself. In fact, I get a notification every morning that just says, be patient. Like, don't worry. Things are going to happen. Things are going to work out. And to me, those are kind of the similar sides of the same coin. Like you want to work super duper 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 hard if you want to be good at what you want at what you're doing, but then you also have to learn to relax and be patient. Otherwise, hey, maybe you'll be great for 10 years, but then you're going to burn out and have a heart attack. Like you want to be reasonable about that. So those are probably the two biggest lessons that I've learned.
Is there a book, a show, a movie that helped shape your career path, or I must say that helped shape your perspective in your career?
Yeah. Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, kind of dating myself. That was like the original self-help book back in the 90s. A lot of good comments in there, a lot of good ideas in there. But what it really taught me was, it wasn't really the content of the book. It was like, hey, there's this whole world out there with people like Covey and other people where you can actually learn this stuff. Like you can learn how to be a better leader. You can learn how to be a better businessman. You can learn accounting. You can learn math. You can learn the law. You can learn philosophy. And so that book it was like, wow, like, oh my gosh, I can actually use books rather than for entertainment only. I can use it to actually teach myself stuff. So that book kind of launched me into my love of books.
What are your biggest passions and interests outside of work?
My kids, my family, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
That's exciting. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, these questions also we are also learning from you as to um, how we can improve ourselves and what else we can do as
Yeah.
professionals,
Yeah.
even in our free time, in our spare time. So I appreciate these insights. Well, one of our questions, the next question that I have in this interview came from our audience, and it happened to be very liked by our audience. If you had a chance to go back history, personally or historically, to what time period would you like to go back and why?
I would choose one of two eras, either the age of sail in Britain. I'm fascinated by the British Navy and British commerce, or World War II, because I would go to Britain during World War II because I would want to hang out with Winston Churchill.
Yes, a very interesting answer. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yes, well, in business and in professional life, sometimes we have challenges. Not everything goes smooth. We need to fight for it. We need to be resilient and show some endurance there. From your point of view and based on your experience professionally, how to stay motivated and inspired in times of challenges at work and in our career path?
Yeah, so I used to think a lot about that question, and I read a few books, including one by a guy named Stephen Pressfield, and he kind of changed my mind about this. He said, "Look, inspiration's for amateurs. You're not always going to be motivated. In fact, you probably won't be motivated half the time. I mean, there's going to be plenty of times where you just don't feel like doing it. You wake up, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do that, and you know what I do? I just sit down and do the work. Like I don't make excuses. I don't sit there and think about it. I just sit down and do the work. And a lot of the times I'm not motivated to do it. And I know a lot of your listeners are not motivated to do it, but there's not like some inspiration out there in the cloud. There's not some muse somewhere. Sit down and do the work and the motivation will come. Like that's what I found. Like if you try to motivate yourself and get yourself geared up before the work, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. If you just sit down and put your head down and do the work, the motivation almost always comes after that.
Well, we are coming to the end of our interview in the American Business Podcast. But before we end, what is your career advice for the next generation professionals who are entering to the job market?
Don't chase happiness. The ironic thing about chasing happiness is that is a recipe for unhappiness. So what do you chase? Chase meaning or purpose. Like find something that means something to you. Find something that gives you some purpose and chase that. And the interesting thing about that is by not chasing happiness, by chasing meaning and purpose, you will find happiness as a byproduct.
I appreciate it. Well, for those who like to be in touch with you, you also mentioned your podcast. What is the best way for them to be following you or to be in touch with you?
Look up Brian Beckham, BrianBeckcom, on any search engine, and I will come up everywhere. My law firm is VB Attorneys, V as in Victor, B as in Brian, VB Attorneys. Lessons from Leaders is the podcast. But all you got to do is just do a search for my name, and all that stuff will pop up.
Brian, thank you so much for being with us in your busy schedule. I truly appreciate it.
Great time. Thank you, Kevin.
Pleasure is all mine. And if when you're in New York, just let me know. We can get together.
Love to.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, to our audience and to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was very educational as always. And as I always say in the American Business Podcast, we put together informative, educational content. And our guests, they are experts. They are leaders in their field. and there is a lot to learn from them, and we truly appreciate the professional wisdom and insight. Today we learned from Brian Bacon, and it was actually very educational for me, and I'm sure you also learned something new as well in these episode in the American Business Podcast. The American Business Podcast is the voice of American business, and we cover different subjects in business, informative content every week, and with your support and help, we continue bringing you these informative and educational content on weekly basis. If you like to be a guest in the American Business Podcast, you can send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. We also welcome sponsors and advertisers. If you like to advertise and sponsor for your organization, with your company and institution, you can also send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. If you have an idea, if you like us to invite an expert, a professional to the American Business Podcast, you can also send us an email, the same email address that we use, and we are very responsive, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. If you also visit our website, americanpodcast.tv, you can also learn more about our podcast, and we also publish our weekly podcast episode and program coming up, the schedule. You can see what type of subjects we will be covering, who will be our guest, and you can join us. It is because the American Business Podcast is live first, and we bring you these episodes, the American Business Podcast episodes, live from New York. As you know, last month we got the YouTube Silver Award because we have more than 100,000 YouTube subscribers. Thank you for your support. If you haven't done so, please go to our YouTube channel. We have a QR code right here. You can scan this with your phone, and it'll take you to our YouTube channel, and you can subscribe. And if you feel more generous, you can put your comments in the chat box in our YouTube channel and share your thoughts. We truly appreciate your insights and your thoughts. And the subjects that we cover, there are many different ways to look at it. The impact of AI, how to improve ourselves as professionals. There are many different ways to do it, and we love to also hear from you. And YouTube is a great venue for you to share your thoughts and join this conversation with us. Great. What else is happening? Let's talk about our sponsors. Ms. Excel. If you like to learn Excel and other Microsoft business software systems, consider Ms. Excel. I have the QR code on the screen. When you scan the QR code, it'll take you to their website. You can pick and choose the courses that you like. And before you check out, make sure to use the discount code coming from the American Business Podcast. It is ABP 2025. If you are in the market for an ERP software system, ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning, an accounting system supported by other functionalities such as purchasing, finance, manufacturing, distribution, and other functionalities. One system for all of your business operations. Then consider iTech Consulting Company. iTech is specialized in SAP and Oracle ERP software system, accounting software system, and they are specialized in implementing and supporting these business software systems. I have their QR code on the screen. You can scan the QR code and visit their website to learn more about their services. And if you get in touch with them, make sure you heard about them from the American Business Podcast. In the American Business Podcast, we just don't discuss the subjects, we also take action. And to do that, we put together the Connectional America Business Alliance online networking event. In the American Business Podcast, we discuss subjects. In the Connectional America Business Alliance, we connect and meet with other business professionals. It's an online networking organization that we put together on a monthly basis. The next one is scheduled for October 24th, this Friday. We have limited seating available. If you'd like to join us, please scan this QR code and register. The cool thing about the Connectional America Business Alliance is you will be networking with other business professionals, and at the same time, you will be live on the American Business Podcast in front of thousands of American Business Podcast followers and listeners. So it's very exciting. I hope you can join us. The QR code is on the screen, and this is a monthly event that I love you to join, and I hope you can make it. If you're in the market for a VPN software system for a safer internet use and surfing, consider IPVanish VPN. I use IPVanish as well. It's a solid system. I have their QR code on the screen. When you scan the QR code, it'll take you to their website. You can learn more about IPVanish, its benefits, features, and if you're interested, you can also sign up and be a subscriber, be one of their clients and subscribe to the system. Last month, we started our membership program, the American Business Podcast membership program. And to be an ABP member, you can scan this QR code and you can review our membership program. We have different membership programs for your choice. And as a token of appreciation to return the favor, we also put together various benefits for each membership type. When you scan the QR code, you can actually see the list that we put together, and you can support the American Business Podcast, and you can enjoy the benefits of being the American Business Podcast member. This is an important program that we put together, and so far we are getting memberships, new members. We truly appreciate your support. If you haven't done so, please scan this QR code, take a look at our membership program, and if you're interested, please sign up and be a member and support the American Business Podcast. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening to the American Business Podcast. The American Business Podcast is the voice of American business. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next The American Business Podcast episode. Have a great day.